So, hi people. I wish to talk about Nimona today. Not really the movie, but some key differences between the movie and the comic book. It started as a webcomic. It was collected into paper print. I have a paper print and I wish to show you some key differences. But before we get into that, something that people don't talk about related to the movie. Why is the title Nimona when he is the underling of the Black Knight? Either in the movie or in the comic book, it's the same both ways. In the movie, the Black Knight is entirely passive. He doesn't want anything but lick his wounds in his HQ, secret dungeon or whatever. Nimona comes and pushes him into action. Now, in the comic book, it is very vastly different. Oh, sorry. When we first meet the Black Knight, he's already through a couple of plans and he's doing an entire cloning dragons attacking the castle of the king and doing some change. And then comes Nimona and tries to push him, that's Nimona's plan, into a more violent action. Yes, Nimona is a wee bit more aggressive in the comic, to the point where she kills. Nimona in the comic book kills people. In the movie, Nimona never harms anyone. She destroys some buildings, but that's about it. She doesn't hurt anyone. And there is the statue. The statue in the movie is key importance. It is part of Nimona's backstory in the movie, where she does have a backstory, because the movie 2 or 3 times gets back to this brownish haired girl, uh, where she runs with animals and meets that blonde girl, and the blonde girl gets the statue, and the whole events get mythicized. Now, in the comic book, there is a backstory, but if you are aware, here is how Nimona looks for the majority of the comic. It's practically the same figure. In the movie, she doesn't look like her original form, because the past event which made her Nimona through this fishing well thing is so much returned to that it becomes an established lore. While in the comic book, this sounds all out of place. There is no girl who had a statue, there is no statue. She says she was trying to protect people from some bandits, but at this point, and this is page 28, we know that Nimona kills, Nimona lies. So this whole thing, this whole backstory tale is under suspicion, and later, much later, this gets confirmed that this whole thing on page 166 and 67, and and even on 168, it gets confirmed that this was all fiction. This was not true. The wishing well, the witch, the transformation from human to shapeshifter, it never happened. At least, not at all that way. It is, maybe there is a sliver of truth in the whole thing, but in the comic, Nimona does not have a true form. Actually, the comic goes a whole lot into the technical aspect, how the magic works in that world, while in the movie it doesn't. What the movie does better, it expands on the surroundings, on the city. In the comic, you never see how the common folk lives. You never see a single common folk. It's just darkness, corridors. This is the most, this is the single page where you see common folk. And you don't see flying cars, you don't see how this steampunky world functions with the laser swords and whatever. Obviously, high technology. And it turns out that Nimona, when she shapeshifts, doesn't even exist. She completely disintegrates and bursts again from thin air, and no one knows how and why. So this is a whole new thing. On the other hand, there is an expansion of the backstory, or more precisely, it is like Gandalf goes to the library and looks up Sauron, and there is a picture about that, which is lore about Nimona. This dragon thingy is Nimona. And this figure is the ancient hero who looks like the Black Knight. Not like the White Knight in the movie, but like the Black Knight. This is a setup and foreshadowing for the comic book, for the final confrontation, which happens between the Black Knight and Nimona. And in the comic book, that's a real confrontation. Although it is a setup, but so it's not at all the Black Knight tries to save Nimona. Nimona is absolutely out of control in the comic book. So this is actually lore. And why it is important? Because Nimona doesn't have a true form in the comic. She is very much like the boogeyman in Terry Pratchett's Discworld novels, the original boogeyman, the one which dies in the Hawkfather. She's the night, the origin of monsters, the original monster. That's what Nimona is in the comic book. So I have one more note here. And I won't even use that. So the point is, both versions of the story, Nimona, tells a circular story. In the movie version, the circle is that Nimona is threatened with a sword by that small village and is chased away. And when the present of the movie happens, it's again, the society turns against Nimona. Nimona is threatened by the sword, but this time Nimona is ready to give up to the sword. Now in the comic, the circle is entirely different. conceptually different. Nimona seems to be a force of nature in the comic, a real monster, but this monster is not what you would think, not what the real entity that works like a monster is the society. Society is at the brink of collapse. It's degenerate, it's corrupt, it's dark. So here comes this boogeyman from Terry Pratchett Discworld and tries to save humanity, tries to save everything that can be precious by becoming the monster that the society can fight against. And during this fight, the part of society which is corrupt crumbles, and a hero can rise who can be mythicized and can be the new society around. I hope you understand what I'm telling you. So, Nimona is not an innocent soul, the comic like in the movie, but a monster who becomes the monster society needs to get rid of the corrupt elite so the society can reform itself. It's a very powerful message and much more complicated like in the movie. So the movie is much like a fairy tale. You can show it to your kid, but the comic book version is more for the adults. And I wish to tell you about this.